Jason, obviously one of the centerpieces of Bach's music actually is not a dance movement. It's the fugue. Would you mind explaining what a fugue is?
Sure. Well, Bach is unquestionably the master of the fugue. And as a guitarist, I feel very proud that Bach wrote some of his most magnificent and large-scale fugues for a plucked instrument. Basically, a fugue is a contrapuntal composition for a fixed number of parts or voices. In English, Bach asks us to perform several independent melodies which all start with the same subject material, the same musical material. And then these become simultaneous, played simultaneously as the piece progresses. The magic of the fugue is that each of these individual voices is a melody unto itself, and yet when they're stacked up on top of each other, they create chords. For instance, if we talk about the BWV 998 fugue, here is the subject, or the first voice. It enters in the soprano. And this is the second voice, which appears in the alto voice. And that's what this sounds like. Of course, Bach asks us as a performer to continue the top line, the soprano line, when the alto line is introduced. The third subject entrance, this is the third voice, appears in the tenor, and that sounds like this. You may hear that it sounds a lot like the soprano. In fact, it's exactly the same notes as the soprano line, just an octave lower. And of course, Bach has us play these three lines simultaneously. At this point of the composition, the three lines together sound like this when the tenor line is introduced. But no, Bach isn't through with us yet. He introduces a fourth voice in this fugue. And of course, in the bass is where we hear this fourth voice, this fourth entrance of the subject. Just played alone, it sounds like this. And of course, we are asked to play these four lines now for the rest of the composition, really. Sometimes some of the voices will come in and out, but generally the texture is pretty thick from this point forward. At the point when the fourth voice comes in, the bass voice, the music sounds like this. So you can imagine that there's a certain amount of difficulty in playing all four of these voices at the same time. Really more than any other pieces in the repertoire, Bach's music, and these fugues in particular, really force me to reevaluate each time I study them, my playing and also my listening.
Certainly I can see how difficult it would be to play all four voices together. From a technical standpoint, the musician in me makes me wonder about your musical approach. With all these voices and all of these entrances, certainly you have the ability to accent certain things for the listener if you wish. How do you make these sorts of musical choices?
Well, I certainly can if I wish to. If I play one of those passages again, let's see, we'll take the one we were doing. I can bring out the soprano line more than the other two voices. Or, if I chose to, I could bring out maybe the bass voice ahead of the other two. I really believe it's Bach's intention for all the voices to be heard equally, for the most part. I mean, that's my approach when I practice these pieces and when I perform them. Although I'm only human, so occasionally I'll fall in love with a particular line, like in this case here where the bass voice or the fourth voice makes its first entrance. There's a gorgeous alto line that happens right after.
Okay, let's see if we can spot that alto voice or emphasis without the singing ones.